And we're live. Welcome to the Best in Slot podcast, a podcast by the community for the community. I'm your main host, Sparty, and I'm here with my co-host, Midgettes, and our special guests, Greyhound and Kib. If you're watching this show instead of the Oscars, you're probably doing something right. Welcome, guys. Greyhound is a prop paladin theory crafter, a dank rogue memer, tank chat, Hammer of Wrath, Ravenhold, Discord mod, and a Wowhead guide writer. And of course, many of you guys know Kib as well. He's a Fellhammer Discord admin, Wowhead Havoc, Demon Hunter, writer, and a raider in Strawberry Puppy Kisses, which, you know, my guild has pulled many logs and videos from. So welcome, guys. How are you today?
Good.
Pretty good. Yep.
Well, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it. I mean, it's great to have different perspectives, and oh yes, hello Midgettes. We totally forgot about you too. How are you?
Yeah, you always talk over me. I'm used to it. I muted my mic again and went back to looking at the chat. Hi guys, I'm glad you could make it.
Well, I'm always excited. I know I'm always talking over you, and I get excited for for our little podcast here on our weekly little thing. But today we continue and sort of conclude our 19th episode, and I guess our third parter of the toxicity in the community in the Warcraft class discords. But to start off, we always start off our own little podcast of what's new in the community. And Midgettes, is there anything really new in the community this week?
Well, not really. It's still pretty quiet. The biggest thing is that the Trial of Style is coming next week, and I didn't have that, so I'm going to start there. But the rest of it is mostly news of the alpha beta data mining. Even the Warcraft devs have been quiet.
I do like the Trial of Style. Last time I partook in it, it was Naked Sparty with an Ashburner, and I won, which was awesome because you don't really need a transmog, you just need an Ashburner to win that whole thing.
I can't believe that one.
It was perfect.
I think it was rigged.
What about you guys? Are you guys transmog fiends? You're huge theory crafters, but are you artistic as well?
I have 3 very artistic transmogs that covered me for the last 3 expansions. Like I get like 1 good transmog per expansion, and I'm good.
Yeah, I'm more of a transmog roulette type of guy, and whatever happens.
I have one of those sets.
As a true artist, you do not need to like change things. You make a masterpiece. You make your Madonna, and then you just stay with it for expansion until you move on.
I do have a random roulette, transmog as well. I call it a Wolfman costume. I love it.
Oh, that thing is horrid.
It is
That's the
perfect.
thing you wore until you guys killed one boss. It was awful.
That's right. We punished ourselves with ugly transmogs until we killed fallen avatars. So that was a long time of ugly transmogs.
Heard you guys were punishing yourself on a maiden with green sparkly beards too.
Oh, that one was awesome.
That was a highlight.
That was hysterical.
I love that green bear with Ferrari. That was good. The Seething Shore, there's a new battleground as well, right? Are you guys, avid PvPers at all? Have you guys tried it out?
Of course, that's how you get your essences for the legendaries.
Yeah, I'm more of a world quester and just, dungeons, normal raids, heroic raids, whatever for essences. Midgettes, have you looked into PvP?
Have you been in there? I haven't been in there.
Of course.
Midget is not PvP. So what do you think? Have you guys been in there? What do you think of it?
Oh, I just seen like the intro cinematic, and then I realized that I have legendaries on like all legendaries and all tunes that I play, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, I'll see you next expansion, buddy.
So how many tunes do you play?
Currently 3-ish, I want to say.
Awesome. What about you?
I play 2. I just play my main, and then I have a group that I run with on the Alliance side, so I just play a character there as well.
Awesome. Well, we're definitely not PvPers. I'm sure you haven't been in there, have you, Sparty?
No, I mean, people haven't talked about it. Of course I haven't been in there. I mean, when would I have time to go PvP on top of everything else? For the sake of PvPing, I don't know. If we find, whatever. We'll get it done. But Darkmoon Fair is around, and I know people are excited about that. For those of you doing your rep bonuses, your new mounts. Did you get a new mount? Did you get the blimp that Severus has?
I finally got it. It's awesome. It's on my Twitter. It took forever to get the tickets because I'm not going to do all the competitions, but I do now finally have the Dark Moon, and I'm not going to try to say that word, but I have the blimp. Yes. Yes.
Well, now that you have your blimp, you can help me get my blimp, because that'd be great.
Okay, so I'll send you all the extra tokens I've been using.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Oh, okay, no problem. What about you guys? Do you guys go to the Dark Moon Fair at all?
No.
That's a
Does it
never.
give a raid buff? No, then that's
Well,
that's
it
a no.
gives
Right?
Yeah,
a
pretty
limit
much.
to.
You can't theory craft and do the Dark Man Fair.
No, okay, so it does give you the lemon fillets with
Right.
1% versatility, but we already have somebody providing them, so it's like I'm pretty sure that like for both me and Kip right now, like our involvement in WoW for the last like months involves logging in on Tuesday, raiding, and like doing Mythic Plus on like Monday.
Once
And
a week, yep.
yeah. Like you log in on Monday, you do Mythic Plus, you log in on Tuesday, you raid, and then you come back next week and do the same again.
Oh,
Yeah,
you guys
and-
aren't doing the MDIs?
Nope.
Eh.
I can't where I live, so.
Oh,
Oh
no.
yeah, that's right. Quebec does not
Yep.
allow.
Next
mean-
time though, we have lawyers on it, so.
We have lawyers so you guys can be able to compete. Are
Yep.
you watching it at all? Or any of your-
Probably,
Of course.
yeah.
Of course. I thought it was awesome.
Rooting for Team Method NA.
Really?
Yeah.
You're rooting for a North American team? I thought EU would win, and maybe there would be another Australian upset.
I mean, I'm pretty sure one of our officers in it, so I feel like it helps to root for it.
Oh, for sure. You gotta
Helps with
support your
loot
team.
on the
Yeah.
one day we log in a week.
Oh,
Like-
so if you root for your raid leaders, you get better loot. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
You win more
Hopefully
points.
that's how it works.
That's a plan.
That's
see
pretty
how
much
it
every game.
works.
Yeah, with a lot of MDIs, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and you got to support your teams and go from there. I'm looking forward to quiet nights like you guys have, where it's really quick farm nights. You do Mythic Plus and that's it, and you have time to play other games, time to do other real life stuff, and I know we're all looking really forward to it with Argus Just Dead. There was also the Court of Stars 22 was soloed by a Demon Hunter. Was it a Demon Hunter or a Death Knight?
Yep. Neon did it.
That's incredible. Yeah, Mion. That blows me away. 3 hours, 3 hours, 20 minutes to complete a 22 solo. Obviously not in time, but to complete it itself, that's incredible. It's amazing in itself.
So, with us having a Demon Hunter Theory Crafter in here, would this be my time to say that we should nerf Demon Hunters?
Of
No.
course, he's Vengeance though. I mean, he's not Vengeance, so he's fine with
Yeah.
nerfs.
As long as they don't,
Just
as long
nerf
as
all
they
the
don't nerf
specs.
my
Just
spec.
nerf
Yeah.
them all.
I mean, based on playing from what I've seen on Alpha, like all of the nerfs are, the classes, tanks are being retuned massively, like
Yeah.
all of them. So it's, I
Yeah,
really
there's
feel bad for all of the people who want to still play tank next expansion.
there's a lot of functional changes going now in the alpha, and they're testing new things. And I mean, it's early enough to give feedback and tell them what you like and what you really hate and why. But there's still lots of change, lots of tuning, lots of squish all around. So we'll see what happens in the next couple iterations, next few waves of the alpha as well. I haven't really read too many of the rumors of new races. Apparently, Alliance may get orcs, and we'll just from Draenor, so we'll just call them dorks. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
That was bad.
We have to get a dad joke in there somewhere. So now that we've finished 11 bosses, Death Rush has finally killed it. We had a 0.1% wipe, 10 million HP, and that was fun. So we came back about an hour later, and we had one of our smoothest first time kills of all time, and it was great. What are your thoughts, guys? Overall on the tier, you guys have been clearing it for a while. Good, bad, bosses. Is it? My personal opinion was it could have been. There's a lot to be desired from. Some of the lore could have been better. We could have fought Sargeras. A couple disappointing fights, but what about you guys?
I feel like in terms of Argus, it would have been better if the fight went in how it is right now, so you don't have really RNG. Did we just immunity enough chains on each set to not die, or did we get 3 chains and we're just basically gonna die?
Yeah.
Which would also like remove a lot of comp restrictions. And honestly, like the missing of one part. Like right now, Argus feels like it's I feel like it's a kind of intense fight, but it's also it feels boring because you effectively have phase 1, which is like not too convoluted. You have phase 2, which is again you like at some points now, even now people have to stop. Well, even before, like on progression, people had to stop for DPS so they don't push too soon. And then you have like I want to say like with like 1 minute of RP, during which time you can go like make a hot pocket, come back and eat a hot pocket. and you just have the same phase which you're repeating over and over and over, and just hoping for RNG on chains, which I don't know. I would say in terms of like end boss and tier boss designs, like Gul'dan was better. Gul'dan felt like you have phase one, you have phase two, you have then like the whole Littleton phase, and it gets like interesting on Mythic. And here in Mythic, it's like you get orbs that cover room instead of just dying, and that's really it.
Yeah, a bit of a softened rage, and I would agree there, right? It's not the greatest thing. Gul'dan had, maybe a bit of a more story aspect to it, right? This is sort of, okay, we're doing a couple phases here. There's I don't know, discontinuity with that large break in between before the tree reses you, and that's sort of it, right? There's not enough of it.
Well, also as we recently found out, one of the Titans on Mythic version is completely lazy. Like I believe it's like Targaman or whatever. On
Yeah.
Heroic, he gives these buffs that you kill like the Astral people, and Mythic is just sitting there like, oh well, yeah, guys, do whatever. Like that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
here.
completely AFK.
Well, what about
He's
you, Kim?
making hot pockets.
He was tapped out for the pull timer.
Right.
I
He's
didn't see the
making
pull
hot
timer.
pockets.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
perfect.
That's right, he's the
I
one.
figured he was off fishing or something.
For Argus, it's pretty much the same thing as Grace said earlier. Personally, the last phase I don't really know because I'm dead all the time running around with
Yeah.
a neck from a dungeon.
Yeah,
That's
that's
pretty
a fun
much all
job.
I do in that last phase. And the other two phase, I mean, I don't really know. Like you can push the boss perfectly fine with 3-4 people dead. So it feels that something's missing somewhere, whatever.
Right?
But yeah, Greyhound
Yeah.
pretty much went over most of the stuff. As for the instance overall, I think it was a fun instance early on, like the first couple times you do the boss, and then afterwards there's one or two like really really annoying things on every fight that just makes it not enjoyable to farm.
Okay.
So,
Which is the bosses? Because I know my team, and we're 9 of 11 mythic. We've almost got Ag dead, but we've always got a couple of bosses that are just the bane to our farm. Which ones are yours?
I would say, like from my point of view, Agramar is literally the worst boss. Well, honestly, is the worst boss right now, and it's actually gonna become much worse as people get gear.
Get more gear, yeah.
Because then you're just gonna be pushing phase 2 a lot quicker, and you're like at some point I feel like you're just gonna, well, maybe it's even the case for some people, that you just have to stop DPS so that you have plenty of time to pop all of the elementals without pushing into next phase. So like I don't know, like I feel like Blizzard like eventually gonna have to just like nerf the duration of the dot on you so you can pop them quicker. And it's also just honestly like I would say something like makes a dot tick down quicker, like say keeps the same like damage per tick, so you still like don't want to get like 3 stacks, but so you can pop them more like frequently
More often, yeah.
and make like something for like CC, because like the fight where it's like you can either just spend like forever wiping on this boss, or you can just bring in like 3 blood DKs and just like smash face into keyboard and just like AFK.
mhm.
It's like the same issue as they had on like Kill Jaden and Avatar with rogues. Like you can either
Yep.
like smash your face into a wall, or you can bring in like 4 rogues and they're just gonna suck everything. Here it's like bring blood DKs, problem solved. Like literally doesn't matter what you do at this point.
And that's what I hear a lot of guilds are doing now is, they're running 2-3 blood DKs because the DPS check isn't so bad, right? It just makes the fight
Yep.
a lot easier, and you just control it and you win, which is a bit of an interesting design, but I think
Yeah,
hopefully
but
it's a learning
it's bad
experience.
because not every guild has access to
Right?
all these DKs.
That's right. I mean, I know we don't, right? And we don't look for alts and that kind of stuff. And we have our core team, and there's very few alts that people would run, and that's it, right? So we have to make it work with what we have, right? We were lucky enough to have one of our own DKs, our DPS Death Knights, go blood for it, and that helped us, tremendously.
I mean, outside of that, I feel like only really, well, there's like some annoying mechanics. I feel like the only 2 other bosses that are just problematic is Iminar because of the bridges. And again, you get the same issue where you push the timers too fast, you push the bridges, like healers cooldowns don't come
Don't have
up.
cooldowns,
and
that's
it's
right.
just like, and it's like at some point, it's like, do you just bring in like an extra Resto Shaman just like to put up like Spirit Link and
Exactly.
whatever, and just like drop a DPS or something? Like that's like a bit problematic. I feel like it's like, hey, you push too fast, you're gonna wipe effectively.
Yeah.
And other one is just what's it called, ENR, because it's just like add a button that I can hit so like things come out quicker, because it's just
It's a
like
new Hellfire Assault.
well,
right?
the
You're
thing is,
waiting.
like I feel like every single expansion Blizzard have been trying. Like first we had Galacras, Then we had Hellfire Assault, and every single time they're like, "How can we make this a bit worse since the last one?"
They
Yes.
People hated
succeeded.
Gallicrest. People hated Gallicrest, and they're like, "Well, you know what, Gallicrest, we can make it worse. Here's Hellfire Assault." But Hellfire Assault, I just remember we had like 10 people AFK and 5 people just go to each side and do whatever, and everybody's happy, especially with rings. And here you can't even AFK because you have to go to the bridge, you have to like run between sides. So it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, you can't even AFK. You're here for like 7 minutes.
You have to
I
be.
mean,
It's a boring active. That's right.
you can AFK, but then you just swipe like we did last week.
So
Well,
how did you wipe last week?
People didn't go in the second Paraxis, and it blew us up. So yeah, it was fun.
Oh, fun times.
Yep,
And
there was only 2 DPS up there, so
I think we need to have the music from the Keystone Cops playing while we're doing Avatar. That's my thoughts.
But, like outside of that, I feel like all of the other bosses, like again, like Calvin is still problematic design if you're bringing too much melee, but like
Mm.
that's just a tier.
Yep.
I don't know, like outside of that, like there's like some annoying mechanics, like hey, maybe you should not have like dogs pick you up, stun you, and like throw you in the middle of a map. That's not really
Mhm.
fun.
yep.
And maybe King Grass, as soon as he kills ads, he should probably stop the channel and you just get extra damage instead of again the same things that like you kill ads and then you stand around for like 10-15 seconds just waiting for like him to stop being immune. But I
Yep.
feel like in the greater scopes of schemes, like that's like those sort of smaller issues, like outside of like, hey, Argus is boring, but like really big issues are probably like I said, like Agramar, Blood Decays, Eminar pushing too fast, and I mean like honestly, like ENR is annoying, but like you can literally just skip it every single week and not do it, and most people won't care at this point.
Well, before
Mhm.
we jump into the next part, I'm curious from all three of you, of all of the tiers from Legion, which one is your favorite and why?
The raid tier itself, or like a boss
Nah, just the right. Well,
Or
you could.
instance.
The instance. So,
instance.
which one do you like? Did you like Tomb? Did you like Antorus? Which one was your favorite?
I really liked TOV. Partly because I mean Odin was fun and boring and whatever. We three healed both Helia on our first kills as well as Gorm, and those were the only true challenging healer fights I found this entire expansion. There's very few fights that really made me work, and every half GCD mattered, especially when we three healed Helia. But I mean, to me, TOV is probably my favorite one. I think.
Yeah, TOV for me as well. It just, I mean, there was the least amount of bosses in there, but all the boss had something like somewhat interesting to
Mm-hmm.
do in them, and they weren't really annoying either. Every other instance, there's just something on a handful of boss that just annoyed me too much to just make it better than TOV.
Yeah.
I would say Tomb if KJ wasn't a boss, because like Tomb was the first really like from my point of view like Emerald Nightmare wasn't really a raid. It was like more of like a annoying way of spending first 2 weeks. Trial of Valor was like I think like it was a good as a raid instance, but it wasn't good as raid experience because you were still like most people still had like 1 to 2 legendaries. You don't really get a lot of choices there. You like if you're going for like I feel like in TOV you needed like just 35 trades. You could get like in one spec, but like if something happened, you didn't really have that spec flexibility. Same thing going into Nighthold. Like you're still very limited on legendaries. You're most definitely not gonna have 54 in multiple specs unless you really farm for it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was pretty good instance, but like I said, it wasn't that amazing. So I feel like going into QV was the first time in this expansion when it's like, okay, if you play it like from the start, like without grinding too much, but you could have all legendaries going into it, present at that point in the game. You could have all specs at 54 traits, so you could be ready like 54, 55 traits. You can just like be sitting there like, okay, I'm ready. If I need to go spec A, I can go spec A. If I need to go spec B, I can go spec B, and whatever. So there was a lot. I feel like a lot less like pressure in terms of prepping for the raid.
Says the rogue.
Yeah. That's
Well, I
right.
mean, I still had all 3 specs ready, and I'll say like again like Avatar. I feel like Avatar was fine as a boss. Everything going up to Avatar was plus or minus. Like could be better, could be worse on par with other tiers. Like KJ was just dumb, but luckily I got saved by having to go to Europe. So
Yeah, I took your spot for that one.
Lucky you.
All right. Well, shall we move on to the next part and the big part of this podcast, Sparty?
Yeah, let's move into the crux of our podcast here. And for those viewers just chiming in here or coming in now, a bit of a history, on this sort of 3-part episode on toxicity. When Best in Slot started the coverage of toxicity in the community, it was prompted by a blog by Ask Mr. Robot. And I guess to our surprise, or really not really, we found that a lot of people had varying opinions on the blog post, whether toxicity is a problem, as well as some other information that we hadn't covered. In a community this size, and of the millions, tens of thousands, whatever, there's obviously people with differing views. And we've let 2 differing factions, can do whatever outside of the Best in Slot podcast. But we really want to focus today on the class discords, which is why we have, these 2 great guests as moderators and as admins of the various discords, and talk about some of the challenges of the communities that size, right? There's tens of thousands of people in their communities. And how some of these discords deal with that traffic and some of the issues going forward. And sort of in starting this podcast, Midgettes, she polled her raid team members, and everyone was from a different class, and asked, well, how useful are you finding these discords? And of course, that's always anecdotal, right? What is your opinion on so and so? And there's a couple really good ones. We got a bunch from every single class here, but I want to read a couple off. So regarding the rogue one. One of our members says, Ravenhold has been the premier resource for rogue information for years, as it has. It continues to be one of the one-stop shop when it comes to everything you need to know about rogues. I highly recommend going both to the Discord and the website if you have any questions about the rogue class. And that's, a glowing recommendation on the Discord, the website. I know Ravenhold's been around for a long, long ass time. Another one about the Warrior Discord. The Warrior Discord is great. It has links to 3 best sources of information for the specs as well as other supplemental guides. It also has memes and juicy plagiarism drama, which, I've heard rumblings of, but, it's a bit of a chat and, fun one there. The other one about the Paladin Discord, that's the Hammer of Wrath Discord. I like the relaxed atmosphere of it. What generally is a turnoff for me is someone asks a question and replies with a meme, but I've yet to see that unless someone is being really trolly. Most of the general questions that people ask are in the FAQ, legendaries, best in slot, whatever, it's all in the pins. And that's a general consensus, right? I mean, they're generally a fairly positive response from our players. There's some other discords, there were some mixed responses, but I mean, so far, so good. Thoughts on class discords. I mean, maybe, we can start here with Kib.
Whoa. We have to get the DJ smartass.
Oh, there's another one?
It was the best one. It says, wait, people actually read class discords? Thought they were just places to pin things and rats to cry. I thought that was funny.
Of course you did. And we'll talk about the whole red wheelchair thing. But Kib, you've got a really great story. I know we can talk about the class discord in your piece here. Do you want to start off? Maybe tell us about the Fel discord and really go from there.
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't know if many people know about this, but I know some do. But basically, I'm the admin of the Fellhammer Discord, and the Discord just came to be from one of these small incidents in the community about people seeing things from a different eye. So we just decided to branch off and make our own. But the premise of it is pretty much the difference between the views that the community has over the evolving media that we use to communicate with each other, whereas a forum versus a Discord, which is more of a chat. At least that's how I see it. So you can't really curate both of them the same way, and it brings moderation changes, and you basically that's pretty much why I decided to make my own Discord after we've had some arguments with the other people from the original Demon Hunter Discord. But yeah, I think that's pretty much what starts most of the differences in how people think of Discord basically as a whole.
And so when you sort of branched off, and I don't really want to get into specifics, and it's really none of our business, but what sort of prompted that split off? Was it just a different philosophy in terms of how they should be run? What is your philosophy on how they should be run compared to what maybe the other one would have been?
Yeah, basically it comes down to the fact that I view Discords as mostly a chat community, So I don't really see them as, all message needs to be obviously extreme will needs to be like curated, moderated, and whatever. But I mostly see it as a discussion. So whatever, if people want to come in and just talk about whatever they want, as long as they don't, get in the way of other people, or being disrespectful to other people, they can talk about whatever they want. Like I know that in my Discord, basically, I don't really care that people talk about the football game of last night in the Havoc channel, because it's just the community of Havoc player are just hanging around together and just talking about things. Obviously, if it's a patch day, we ask our members to be a bit more respectful on that matter, because obviously there's going to be more class specific discussion on patch day and on like new expansions and beta cycles and all that stuff. But outside of that, it's basically just a chat room of people with similar interests. So that's one of the reason why we decided to eventually branch off, because we were continuously like going against the rules of the previous channel that
Mm-hmm.
was really curating the discussion to one specific subject. So that, and then I instead of constantly breaking the rules and by the same time causing like problems with the moderators and admin of that Discord, we
Mm-hmm.
just decided to make our own thing and go by our own rules, and then people were just free to choose wherever they wanted to go.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I guess I sort of come from the old, really anal philosophy where it's if we have a Havoc Discord, we're talking about Havoc related stuff, right? And if we're talking about football, well, that belongs in off topic. But you do bring a really good point there. Well, it's Havoc Demon Hunters, right? But we're talking about whatever, right? But we're just one large community, right? And yeah, we'll have some off topic discussions, but it's sort of free for everybody to chat within, within that sort of realm. And there's always those gray zones there too. What about you, Gray? What are your thoughts on class discords? What's your philosophy behind, the way you run your community?
I mean, it's basically, I would say, very close to it. I feel like I've seen it in some discords where it's like, if this is a channel about spec, and you say anything outside of like unrelated to that spec, like it gets deleted, it gets modded, and I just feel like it's silly. Like I think I don't remember which Discord it was, but it was like basically people started talking about a different spec of the same class as a Discord, and I just got like, no, that's the wrong channel. Go talk about it, the other channel. I was like, okay, that's it's a bit silly now. And I feel like as Kip said, like this is not a website because it's not like a forum. Like in forum, I can see like some reason for moderation because like the message throughput or so is less. So one, forums from that become a lot easier to moderate. Two, it because of that people are more have a higher tendency to say like post things related on topic in forums. Like you're not gonna like type out like a message that's gonna get responded like say like 30 minutes to like 2, 3, 4 hours later if it's too far off topic. Like you're not gonna go in like a paladin forums and like start discussing like something. But in a live chat where you're getting like instant replies, it's a bit different. Like it's I feel like it's closer to say RC communities, which yeah, like RC communities were always like say like we have Ravenhold had IRC communities like
Mm-hmm.
since long time ago. And yeah, it was focused about rogues. You would talk about rogue stocks, but then somebody would like, hey, like I got this tea, and people can go and discuss like what new teas they got for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, because like yeah, if nobody's coming in, nobody's asking questions. Like you're not just gonna say like, no guys, like stop talking and let's just like make it silent so that people don't get confused that this is like some other Discord. Like no, it's just silly.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like so like because of that like discourse are a lot more organic communication between people, so it also means that like you're not gonna like filter them out as much.
No, that's really fair. And yeah, maybe I'm really dating myself here with all these IRCs, and that's been around for a long time. But I mean, it's mostly defunct these days, as far as I know. The forums of old were the old ways of doing things, right? I mean, it was the best way to communicate effectively, the right information, which is now, you know, guides. And I do want to sort of read out Kib's twit longer here, and he says, a quick message to everyone complaining about some class discords being meme fest or whatnot. Discord channels are chats, which usually ends up creating micro communities of people with similar interests that got brought together because of a spec class they play. you will find a formatted source of information on Discord besides pins or FAQ channels. It's not just the nature of the tool. If what you're looking for are guides or information, your first stop should always be those online guides written by knowledgeable people and trustworthy players. If you read the guide for a specific spec and have more questions, you'll find people discussing those in the Discord, and it'll be 99% friendly, as the people that are active in those channels realize you've done your homework and won't feel like replying to you is the same shit they've been replying to every other lazy person in that week. And TLDR was, do your homework, be respectful, ask the right questions, and that kind of stuff. And that's a really interesting perspective. And maybe just Sparty's out of touch, right? Or is it the kids that are wrong these days? I don't know. I think it's the evolution of what these Discords have become. It's, again, like you guys have said, a much more real-time chat. It's, great theory crafting, great discussion, answering the right questions. Throughout the Holy Paladin one, which I frequent, there's good suggestions on like when to use your sacks and how to best utilize your sack and that kind of stuff. And it's not stuff that's covered in the FAQs. But yeah, a lot of the very simple ones, what are my stat weights, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's the basic stuff. But there's often a lot of really good discussion outside of the people joking around. And you guys have highlighted that, yeah, they're a community. They're the same regulars over and over chatting. It's the community that they've built and fostered. Well, they're going to be talking about other stuff as well. And what about you, Midgettes? What are your thoughts on the class Discords so far?
And to add
Sorry,
something.
go ahead. Yeah.
So as you mentioned, so you talked about forums and here like people check FAQs, but like I remember you back like 2000s using forums. You're not gonna go on a forum like make a thread like how do I do big damage? What like what are like my legendaries? Like say if let's go back to like say make it WoW specific. If you went to an Elitist Jurix and you're like, what do I do to do big damage? You just get banned.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So it's like here, like yeah, people might be like rude to you and just be like check the pins, but it's like it's not very different from the old forms. Like if you make a thread like on say MMO champion, like how do big damage, you're gonna get like thread closed. Like there's gonna be a like link to like the first guide, and like if you do it like too many times, you get banned on MMO champion, which is pretty open. If you do it in Elitist Jurix, it might not even be like hey, I come up with this, and you're still gonna get like banned or something, message deleted. So when people do the whole like, oh, people are mean to us now and before, it was like sunshine and lollipops. Like no, like those messages still get deleted, people still get banned. So it's just like, if anything, now nobody's really gonna delete your message if you're asking for legendary. Nobody's gonna ban you. People might ignore you. People might tell you to check the pins, but that's still a bit different.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember those old days, and we're going to touch on EJ in a little bit. But Midges, share with us your thoughts on Discords and and everything in between.
Well, I'm going to start with one of the things, because I get to be the lucky recipient of most of the whispers that come from Zeros to Heroes and Death Jesters, and they haven't read things that I understand people's frustration. So when I go to the Discord, the first place I go is their FAQ or their pins, and I generally get very great answers. And I've popped into some of the chats, but oftentimes I've already got what I want. I'm coming for the resource, and I go on. I'm not a big small talk person, so I don't sit and chat in the Discords. But I've never found anything but a pleasant response. And most of the stuff that I've seen, and we'll talk about it more later, have come from major patch changes, or some dramas come up because somebody's done something, and everybody is just going off. But those I have not seen myself. I just get to be the lucky recipient of seeing all the screenshots. The good thing about the internet, we all have to remember it. If you write it online, somebody's going to screen cap it. I promise.
Absolutely. And so, moving on to the Discords and what you guys do, right? You guys are moderators, admins. What is sort of the scope of that work, right? How much work does it take to maintain? How active are you in them? I know with the Paladin one, they're updating the pins frequently and the FAQs, and then, there's a dad joke there quite frequently. But, starting with Gray this time, how much work is it, right? Like, give us hours, right? Give us some examples of what you're doing in the day in the life of a mod.
This is awkward. I mean, honestly, I feel like it really depends on, say, like patch cycle, like getting closer to the end of, like, say, content here. Like right now, like most people are just sitting there, like not really doing anything, coming in into forum, like coming into chat. Like if you get pinged and like, oh, somebody said something bad, you just go in and ban. Like you're like that's I feel like another like that's another issue with people expecting toxicity. Discord has, like as I mentioned before, it has a much higher message throughput. So when people expect like, oh, every single message gonna get moderated, like no, it won't. Like I talked to some people from Discord, the app, and they're like, yeah, generally we get something like double digits of mods once service hits like 10,000 people. So from
Well,
what like I remember, like most, so it's like let's just say it's 10 people for 10,000 people, like one mod per 1,000 people. So most class servers are like 50, I would say 50 to 70,000 people, right? Even if say online is just like 30 or something, so like you would expect that there's still a lot less mods than there are like people would expect there to be, and there's a lot more messages going out and back in the like old forums and everything. So in that respect, like you can't really moderate everything. Like when people sending 1,000 messages a day, you're not going to be sitting in front of your computer 24/7 just looking and moderating, like reading through every single channel. Like say in Paladin Discord, just like at looking at Red, like they have like 5 channels. I don't think that all of them are postable. So let's say there's like 3 channels, like questions, general, and BFA. You're not gonna have like 3 windows open and just like monitoring them in lifetime and be like, oh, somebody said some bad word, I'm just gonna automatically delete it. So a lot of it is also like just community. Like say if it happens a lot in Rogue Discord for me that like somebody said something in one of like 6 channels that they shouldn't have. You also have like PvP and whatnot. They ping mods, mods come in, mods delete. If like if it was something bad, mods banned, and you just move on. Like it's because a lot of it is about just community. Like if you don't want like seeing something, you shouldn't just be sitting there like skulking. Like yeah, this is I don't like this message, but I'm not gonna do anything about it. You just ping mods,
good
you
point.
PM
Really good
mods,
point there.
and be like, hey, like is this message really should be in the channel, and then mods can decide. Because again, like difference is that like unlike some like people who discuss toxicity, that none of the mods from Discord make money from this. Like server owners don't make money from this. Server owners get like $5 a month premium, not premium, nitro. That's only like really monetary benefits they get, and that's like one person for like 50,000. Like none of the mods get anything. Like we don't get paid, we don't get anything. So people expecting like lifetime monitoring is it's a bit silly. Like if you like say other looking at other communities, like looking at say Discord, I mean not Discord, Twitch mods. Like there's they a lot of those mods do have some monetary benefits because the streamers themselves make more than $5 a month generally, so they can pay their mods, they can give give game giveaway something else. Discord you don't get anything. Like I think the maximum thing we've gotten in like Paladin Discord, and I don't think we've got anything in Ravenhold or anything else. But in Paladin Discord, we had like some game devs come in and be like, "Hey, if we advertise and do like a giveaway of like 3 games, you can have a copy of game for your mod team." And it's like wonderful. We have like a mod team of let's say like 20 people, accounting like moderators, like hero crafters, Templars. You're just gonna like make a Steam account and just like tag in like, "Hey, buddy, I'm gonna go play some games that like nobody really cares about." Like, no, it's silly. So like people need to realize that if you don't like something in community, you need to speak up and like PM mods, tag mods. Better just like PM a single mod rather than tagging everybody because that just gets everybody upset. And like just honestly deal with it. Like if and worst case scenario, like with Kib, if there's something with Discord that you just generally don't like, you don't think that Discord is going the right way, you can just go and make your own Discord. And oddly enough, it actually does work. We have Demon Hunter Discord, we have Resto Shaman Discord, we have Disc Holy Priest
Hunter did it a
Discord.
while ago as well.
Well, Hunter 1 was. I feel like
It's
Hunter
a
1
bit
was a bit.
different, but yeah.
I feel like that was slightly. I don't think that would be in the same category, but like you
Yeah.
have Discords that are popping up dedicated to spec channels. If people feel like that, like current Discords are not not working how they're supposed to be working. But like I said, like moderating, like it's You can spend 24 hours a day if you want to. You can spend like 2 hours a day. There's really like no one way of saying. Closer like between patch releases and everything, mods generally like their job was to go through the pins, go through the FAQs, talk to like high end players, talk to theory crafters, see like is there like any important information we should put on pins? Like, hey, like we found out this cool bug with rogues and fan of knives that like all of a sudden makes rogues do like really big damage. Let's just pin it and tell people about it.
That's awesome. That's you had a really number of really good points there. Number one, there's a ton of mods. It's a volunteer position, where they're putting in as much time and effort as they can or as they'd like to. You're never going to get everything, right? Like it's really impossible, right? In communities of tens to 50,000 people, you are never going to get every single message insta deleted. Shit's going to go through it, and that's going to happen, right? And the other big thing is it's a really good point is if you see something you don't like, speak up, right? Tell a mod, right? It's okay to do that. Worst case, if you really hate the community, do what or not sorry, not hate the community. If you disagree with the philosophy of the Discord, then do what Kib did and start your own Discord, right? And that's been successful in its own right. So Kib, what about you? The amount of effort you take, you're running admin of the server. Are you putting in lots of hours per day? What's sort of your philosophy in terms of moderating these things? I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but tell us what you do.
Yeah, I mean it's very similar. It obviously like uh basically the amount of time I spend in Discord is pretty much relative to the amount of time I spend in game or doing WoW stuff basically because I just have them on screen side by side.
Hmm.
So the more I play WoW, the more I have an eye on Discord. But it's Lim pretty much went over everything. Obviously, like near patch cycles or during beta cycles, there's a lot of back and forth going with theory crafters and people from the class or even just members of the spec channels that bring things up for theory crafter to implement in simcraft or to test out or to get like just feedback on that because people's name just get kind of known in some communities and you get some question directly to you or question in chat that you can just throw in an answer and then other people will just repeat what you said afterwards because they view some people as a trustworthy source. So you just go through all that soup of things and you just make pins and may update the fact channels to better reflect the most current data. But in times like right now pretty much it's literally what Greyhound said. It's just you get tagged somewhere, and it's like, hey, tag this guy that posted a picture of a dog in the cat channel, and you just say, don't post a picture of the dog in the chat channel, and but it's pretty much what it is these days. But obviously, as more and more people get beta access, and as we're going forward, the discussion is going to get more and more lively, and there's going to be more time that not going to be needed to be put into Discord basically, but just get that's going to be put in by virtue of playing the game more and paying more attention to the discussion.
Okay, and midgets, your thoughts on the purpose of these class discords?
Well, I think they're a resource, and we actually had one of your viewers say that he didn't even think to go to Discord.
I was about to say
Oh,
you beat me to it.
well, that's okay. I like to beat you to things sometimes. It's so people aren't necessarily know that they're a good class resource. And one of the best things that I think is it's live, it's real. There's enough people, so a lot of the times websites would stop because the one person doing them quit playing the game or got busy in real life or whatever. And I like it because I can go now and see the changes even from a patch update or just some tweaks that come from the patch notes. And I found them to be a wonderful resource. And one of the nicest things that came up was the addition to the Ravenhold Discord that talks about Discord's the basics. And maybe we move on to that because that that link was shared by the rogue in our guild, and he said this is awesome. and he's the one that showed this to me, and I think that really helps because we have a lot of viewers that don't even know Discord exists. Let's talk about that.
Right, exactly. And you get a lot of people here. Blazin says, "Oh, this is amazing. I've never heard of these Discord resources." And you've got a place like Ravenholt, which has been a huge repository for knowledge for rogues, and now has this amazing welcome guide. Right? They say before you typing anything in, read this. Right? You're going to get memed into orbit if you join a class Discord and ask a pinned question, i.e., a question that is answered in a pinned message. So it explains that even. The regulars of any community see it happens tens of hundreds of times per day, and it gets really old really, really fast to give the same answer over and over and over and over. That's why pinned messages exist. You are not the first person with your question, and you will not be the last, right? And so it's a really good step-by-step introduction to Discords for those of you that haven't been part of them or really don't know what they're about yet. Like, this Ravenhold guide is absolutely fantastic for how to use Discords, how to ask the right questions, and EJ would have had similar things back in the day of how to write a proper message, grammatically correct, and make sure it's not been asked before. And this is a much, I don't know, a much nicer way of putting it, and it I would say it gets through a lot of the issues that the Discords have of well, they suggested check pins. Well, maybe you should have checked pins.
Sparty. Wait. I just heard recently that check the pins was a toxic answer. Isn't that the case?
I don't think check the pins is a toxic answer, to be honest. It's again what was said in the Ravenhold thing. It's it's check the pins, right? Like, the answer is there. It's quicker for us to type that out, right? Out of need, not so much laziness, than it is to answer every single person every single time. And part of it is the answers and community you want to cultivate, right? It's not people answering the same long, like, short question with a long-winded response, right? It's, well, you need to put in some of the effort yourself as the person asking the questions, and part of that may be reading through the FAQ or asking for the pins. If it was, hey, Midgettes comes into Discord and says, "Hey guys, what are my stat weights?" And if somebody goes, Sparty says, "Listen, you stupid priest, why don't you go learn to read? How do you even manage to turn on your computer, let alone breathe, when you ask a stupid question like that?" That's more toxic, right? That's a whole different thing than check the pins, right? Like, it's a whole different, context as well. We talked on EJ a little bit, when you guys were talking, and it was pretty strict there with a forum, and EJ was run by by Mr. Hazakostas himself, right? He's the guild leader, Gurgthok, and that was a huge repository of knowledge. It was, people were pretty anal in terms of what you posted. Your theory should have stuff behind it. You weren't allowed to post, stupid things in the wrong sections because it was there, curated properly, like you guys said. But it required a lot of moderation, and there were pay components to that website as well. And yeah, they had a long FAQ, right? Of, don't ask the same question, how to ask the right questions, make sure it's been done before. But I mean, going into that, I mean, you guys, it's a new patch cycle, right? Kib, you guys get a lot of duplicate questions, I would imagine, right? Let's say, I don't know, 7.3.5 launches, you get what? How much of the same question in the Havoc Demon Hunter Discord?
New patch comes in, I'd say that I don't know, the surge in extra messages, just the chat, the chat just goes through. Like, you can do the dumb joke, like, no one will see this message because chat moving so fast, whatever, and it's actually moving so fast that you can actually do dumb stuff like that. But I'd say probably 90% of the questions are, what are the new stat weights? Is the new tier piece good? Do we still use this potion or the other potion? Do we use the same enchants? So it's all questions that have a very, like, yes or no or XYZ answer. And these questions are 99% of the time answered by the pins. So that's why, obviously, 99% of the people will get the answer, check the pin.
The other 1% is going to get told to sim it.
Right, exactly.
which for the most part is the right answer, because when you're looking at a stat weight, the stat weight isn't necessarily consistent throughout the entire expansion. It does change depending on your gear, depending on what you're doing, right? There's no best stat weight. You really have to sim it, right? You have to use WoW Analyzer or whatever you're running to sim your stats to see if it's going to give you more DPS or more healing or whatever, depending on how you use your your damage or how you use your heals or what role you're in. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, moving on to that, do these discords get toxic, right? Not in terms of negative Nancy, but do they actually get toxic? And you guys are are moderators or admins of these discords. Do you see that, right? I mean, we can be honest here. Do you see that toxicity to the level where I talk to midgets there, where she's too dumb to to breathe?
Well,
Oof.
yeah, it happens from time to time, but usually like people are people, right? And there's always going to be a group like thing going that you see someone say something a little bit like harsh that's not really like bad, but it's just just a little bit, and then the next guy's gonna go a little bit further, the next guy's gonna go a little bit further, and then you get to like the third or fourth guy, and then you just single that guy out. You just bas- basically that's how I do it. Is I just tag him. I go like, calm down, dude. Like you don't need to go like ham on that person. Just send them to the pin, send them to the fac, or just ignore them, and everyone's gonna be happier like that. And in most cases that's enough to just take care of the problem, and things will stop escalating from there. But obviously if people just go like full retard, then we just give them a formal warning and then ban them afterwards. That's not usually the case. People usually like have enough of a head on their shoulder to when they get their first little warning, their first friendly warning, I guess, is just all right, it's fine, and everything goes back to normal afterwards.
Also,
What I'm curious, and can I step in and ask a question here?
yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead, just
curious though, when you've got 20,000 people and the chat is running fast, uh, do you have what they call an echo chamber where, yeah, what he said, and they all go off, and then you
Yeah.
have a mess? What do you do with that?
If the what he said is a good message, it's getting pinned, and if the what he said is something stupid and and it just grows too big, uh, it doesn't happen often. But there's the always famous at everyone post that kind of make things worse usually. So that's not really used anymore. People got their lessons from that. But usually, what happens if it gets really, really bad is a moderator, an admin will just close the chat down for like a minute. Like you just block the chat, tell everyone to go take a walk and come back like in a minute. And that most of the time will solve problem as well.
That's interesting. I mean, I haven't seen that in action, but it sounds like it would be an effective deterrent of like, listen, guys, stop being a bunch of nuggets, go calm down, go take a breather, take a walk, and then come back to video game, shit chatting, right? Like that,
Yeah.
you know.
I've had to do that once in the past, what, year and a half, 2 years since beta started, because that's around the time when the Fellhammer thing Discord was created.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to do it once, and it was just like the moderators and myself have a role into it because we didn't really step in to like calm things down fast enough or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But there was obviously the crowd effect of a little bit more here, a little bit more there, a little bit more here, and then it just created snowball that was too big, and we just had to do like the big bad thing of like
Big bad
everyone
silence, yeah.
stop and we're done.
Yeah, and I mean that's sort of how it works, right? It's been a good learning experience, right? And sometimes we do need to make those mistakes, or there's those growing pains when a community is growing to to make those mistakes and to suffer from them. So now when something like that's happening, you cut it off after 3-4 attempts as you sort of notice that snowball happening now.
It doesn't happen anymore. I haven't seen it happen since that one time it happened. Since then, like moderators kind of, we saw where the threshold was,
Mm-hmm.
and we just stopped thing before we reached that threshold, and everything is basically fine now. 99% of the time, people will just get a hey, calm down, dude, and we're done. And then, a tiny little fraction of the time, that person's gonna get offended by us telling them to calm down a little bit, and then they'll turn on us, and then it just if it keeps escalating, and an individual becomes a negative aspect for everyone else on the server, then the decision's pretty easy to make at that point. The
What do you mean you're
individual
telling me to
just
calm down? What do you mean?
Also,
Don't tell me
you
to
have
that. You know who I
commands,
am?
We have the phases. We have the phases of Sparty. We're okay. Well, and keep in mind it's new technology, so it's evolving. It was probably a whole lot harder or even more toxic, and we than it is now because you learn as you go. So you just said we figured out what caused that. We don't let it go that far ever again. But they probably also learned something really good from the chat being turned off. Okay, they're not going to allow this here, so we're not going to do it.
and looking at most class discords, like usually people flaming somebody, it's not gonna be like a regular flaming a new person because new people like worst thing new people do is as you like suggest something that's like really doesn't work. At which point, like most of the time, regulars will spend like 20 minutes explaining to them why like they're actually wrong, and after that, just gonna start ignoring them and go into like their private channels and be like, "God, this guy, can he just go away?" Or usually like if I see people like flaming each other back and forth, it's usually like just two regulars arguing. Like that's another saying that like at which point you can also just like you already know who the special children are.
Okay, so I'm gonna sort of go deep right into it and ask you guys a couple hard ones here. So here's a couple situations that happened through various discords, and I'm not gonna mention which ones because it was varying through them. And part of it, was shitting on somebody, and that'd be me. And I don't have a very fragile ego. I got a fairly thick skin, so it is what it is. I'll read some of these sort of excerpts to you guys. One of them's about Zeros to Heroes here. This is a cult in disguise. All hail Lord Sparty. He probably married a filthy outguilder to breed with. And so there's stuff like that. And there's another one here is another, I guess, a large streamer. Someone that does, other shows. So-and-so is a piece of shit. I wish people would stop watching him. Not me, but, people, I'm sure people feel that way. So how do you deal with situations like that, right? Where it's, fairly inflammatory towards, somebody or some other people.
I mean, in public chats, there's, like I said, if it's done by like a new player, that just gets instant deleted. If like it's done multiple times, they're just gonna get quickly banned because like if somebody coming in like intentionally bait, like might as well just ban them and move on. Like there's literally nothing of value being lost. If it's like a regular, you're gonna delete them on expansion and why it's not being like why that's not the smartest of ideas. And again, like for most of the people, like they're trying to share it with their clique, and you can just tell them to take it to like a private, hidden, secret channel when they can like feel free to flame away as long as it's not in the public eyes. Because at the end of the day, like if people want to say something, that's fine. Like you can't control. Like say if right now like somebody goes into like Death Jester's discords and make fun of me and Kib, like we have no control over that. We won't even know. We won't even care. So like if there's like a channel with say like 20 people just being toxic and flaming one another, then like doesn't matter. Doesn't hurt anyone. So who cares?
Yeah, I think part of that is, the public versus private discords, or one is public and one is private, and the other is, whether people are complicit, if they're not standing up for somebody and saying, hey, this is probably not okay, this kind of bullying with so-and-so not around to defend themselves is probably not okay. What if I were to go back and say, some of those comments that I pulled out were from, the high-end demon hunters or templars, or people with a higher rank, or the regulars in that channel, right? And you go to a mod, and the mod says, well, you're probably just looking for attention, so you probably deserved it. And there's nothing done there.
Templar, feel free to PM me. We love to demote our Templars and ban them. Well, mostly demote.
No,
we haven't had a public execution in a while, so let's feel free to send all Templars saying naughty things to me.
Okay, so, and Kib, you mentioned this earlier, where if there's things that you don't like in a Discord, who are the best people to message, right? Like, so should I speak out? Should I say, hey guys, that's probably not okay, right? I mean, in the past I've spoken out where it was, I don't know, somebody was trolling somebody really, really hard in LFR, and I'm like, come on, grow up. And that was sort of my way of stepping in. But when things are, really inflammatory, well, who should the regular people go to? Should they go to a mod? And what if the mod's giving them a really terrible answer? Do they go to an admin? What should be the best
Yeah, I
process?
mean, you can. Discord's kind of easy to just spot like who the people in charge are in most Discords, at least. So you can just, if you're not comfortable going to an admin, you just go to someone that can actually do something about it. Just
Mm-hmm.
just don't like start talking shit in the channel, because then you're just putting shit on shit and it doesn't do much.
This is true.
So you can just go to someone that can actually do something about it, and then if things needs to be done, then they're going to be done. Because I know most Discord, I assume all of them, but there's like a mod channel where mod talk with each other,
Mm-hmm.
and when people get kicked or when people get banned or when people get warnings, there's like we curate like who gets what warning, when they did, and who gets kicked for what reason. So like we know who the troublemakers are usually, and if obviously like someone that we have an eye on just goes out of line, they just see ya, because you are already on a short leash. But when it's just someone random, either that I mean, it happens all the time. Like someone's gonna come in and post a clip from X streamer doing like her thing during a boss to Dalaran, and obviously
Shh.
some people can see that as flaming, some people can see that as memeing, and then it's just become a case by case scenario over like, were they actually showing this as like, haha, look at this, something funny happened, or were they like showing it like in a bad way? Then it's just a case by case, obviously.
Yeah, and I
What's
think
even
that
funnier about that example is Sparty didn't know he'd heard.
I had no idea, right? Obviously, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, a lot of that context does matter, right? It's hey, are we chirping so and so? Are we teasing them playfully? Or are we saying, hey, this guy is absolutely friggin' retarded, right? Like that's look at this guy. Let's all laugh at him and gang up on him. There's a bit of a different context, right? And part of it is perception. So many viewers, myself included, the perception isn't there that there's this whole moderation channel and you guys are doing all those things above and beyond to see who your little troublemakers are, who needs a warning, and what you're discussing. So that's a really interesting, an eye-opening, statement, right? That these guys are doing a
Yeah,
lot more than just sitting there, posting those dank memes, right, and contributing that stuff, which in my opinion is fine. It's Sparty's a dinosaur apparently, which is also okay. And so moving on to when you have large amounts of people going in, right? So let's say the Paladin Discord, right, where the ret nerfs have come in and everybody's screaming in one of the audio channels and the wheelchair icon comes out. So Gray, maybe you can touch on that one. How do you handle these huge influxes of people?
Well, one, as we've tried it and it had pretty good success chances, we just check everybody that crashes the server and kind of solves all of the issues for a few hours until Discord manages to pick it back up. Because it's usually like most people, like half the people get server outage, half people don't. So it's like on and off, pretty good. Then we also tried just deleting red channels so people don't have anywhere to complain. And then they go cry in like warrior forums, and at that point, that's a warrior Discord problem. Why there's like all salty red paladins coming in, and otherwise, like I don't know. Like I mean, like honestly, at this point, like I feel like red community just accepted playing since like at every single expansion after Lich Kings, that there's a spot where they belong,
Mm-hmm.
which is the same spot that they belonged like prior to Lich King, and they should just not expect to fly too close to the sun for too long.
That's a good one. Well, let me just moving on to you. Well, now what, right? We know a little bit more about these discords now, and there's varying levels of opinions on this. And we had a chat and we disagreed a little bit in terms of these discords. And I think I'm coming to the realization that I'm more of a dinosaur and too old school for some of these things, which is also okay. You get into these and
But I'm older than you, and I have more tolerance.
right, that's the thing, right? There's a certain level of tolerance, right? Where if you're out there with your kid in the middle of a mall and someone says the F word, right? Are you going to get really offended? Well, maybe, but if you get offended, so what? I'm sorry you can't control your emotions and you get offended at everything, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen in discords, in life, right? People are going to say sometimes offensive things, and the word police won't always be around, right? Whether it's a Discord mod or the word police outside in the mall, right? What are your thoughts now, midgets?
My thoughts are the same as they've always been. And I'm a big one. If it's in the public eye, if you don't like it, change the channel. But the memes, I go for them because I love them. I think they're funny. Most of them are hysterical. The whole wheelchair thing was, I was laughing. And to this day, we pick on the refs in our channel about being in wheelchairs. And that's why you got the smart comment from one of our raiders about it, watching the Rets cry. I think it's been a good thing for the community, and I think as everything new with the community, it's getting better. So it might not have been as good, but I think people also found out that if it was just a toxic mess, which I think some of them can be, that people didn't come, and ultimately they want to talk with other people about their specs or their class. And before I get pinged one more time in chat, um, we will ask your question, but we're going to finish up the topic, and it'll be the last question we ask about their favorite class. But I think, and in talking to both of these guys, I had a really great conversation with them. If I didn't already like the Discords, they did a good job of representing what good things come from.
This is true. I mean, I do want to go back and and say, yeah, Midgettes goes to these discords for the dank memes. That's how she stays youthful. But their chat room.
I don't even know what dank means.
I don't know. I mean, maybe Kib and Gray here can explain it to us afterwards. But yes, so I mean, part of it is, yes, they're a bit of a chat room, right? They're a bit of a disconnect, and they're moving on from the old forum style that we used to deal with, right? And it is what it is. There's growth and there's room for improvement, and I think one of the best things that the Ask Mr. Robot article did was a lot of discords did a little bit of self-reflection and made sure they were on the ball, and a lot of Discord mods and admins really care about these communities. And again, if you don't like it, you're probably gonna have to change the channel, stand up for things you don't believe in, and go from there. But yeah, there's a question for both of you guys. We'll start with Gray here. What are your favorite class Discords? So outside of your own, what are your favorite Discords to hang out with that you are not a mod admin with? Gray, and then Kid.
We're still talking about class only, right?
Yeah, why don't we say class Discords for now? Because I'm sure you've got, other fun Discords.
I mean, I only have like 99 of them. There's a bit of a list, but I would say Hunter one.
Discords,
Hunter one is pretty fun and interesting in terms of memes. Druid one is a bit too boring. They have too many questionable characters in there. Some people who decide to, for zero reason, flame developers on Twitter. I feel like that's very rude and toxic. And I don't know, like there's other ones is like Warriors, but Warriors have just like also shady characters, like just I don't know, it's like people stealing others, people theory crafting and guides, people just like getting banned 25 times and coming back.
So the Real Housewives of Warrior Discord is what you're saying.
Yeah, Warriors are just like I don't know, like they're I don't know, it's I try to not read those channels. They're a bit traumatic.
I gotcha. All right, and Kib?
I pretty much just hang out in the class Discord of characters that I actually play. So, yeah, that's pretty much where I'll just hang out, just memeing with people and going through the dank memes. And outside of that, I just keep the tags on every one of them. So whenever there's an at everyone being posted somewhere, I make sure I show up to see the shit show that's gonna come out of it. Just to participate as a pillar of the community.
Awesome. And so that sort of winds down our little topic here. It concludes our 3-piece segment on showing the differing views of toxicity in the Warcraft Discord community, and it in general, right? I mean, it was a great topic to discuss. And as you bring a new topic and have the discussion, there's different viewpoints, which is awesome. But you want to look internally into your guild and your Discord and whatever communities you're running, your raid team, see what kind of culture you've created. Right after one of our own Discords, Midgettes and I ran, just a couple searches on a couple different terms of, gay this, KYS this, so kill yourself this. And we were pretty shocked with the results of, we have 9, 10 different raid teams, and we're not policing everything, right? I mean, people sort of police themselves, and we're pretty shocked with results. But at the same time, right, there's a little bit of context, within those as well. But it was a great discussion with our own leadership team of, well, how much are we policing? How much should we? How much should people be, left to their own devices as long as it's, within reason? And we saw, in drilling it down that very little, if none, were in public areas. They were all, in our private little chat rooms, and people were just joking around and whatever. And discussion itself made us, all more aware of the things that we could do better, right? What can we do better in our own communities, right? Whether it be, leadership meetings or mod discussions or whatever it may be. Ultimately, all of these Warcraft resources have various levels of, toxicity, from the forums to Twitch chats to social media to Discords. As long as you're not a warrior taking a picture of your anus and sending it to Watcher Dev, you're probably going to be okay, which is what happened a while ago. But each place has a group of people that do their best to encourage and enforce for others, as you can see here through Kib and Gray. Each has a culture, and maybe that culture is not for you, right? Maybe Sparty is too old for some of that stuff, and that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe Sparty's a dinosaur and he misses EJ forums, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The best thing you can do is set an example, stand up for the wrongs, right? Report incidents to the mods and make the resources a better place, right? The mods clearly listen, they care, report to them. And one of the reasons EJ was such a great resource was that they heavily moderated that chat, or really the forums. But the hours that must have taken, right? We already heard from these guys where, it's tens of thousands of people, not a few hundred that we had on EJ. It's tens of thousands of people going through, and you're going to miss things. And, nobody's perfect. People make mistakes too, and that's okay. You can't moderate every corner of the internet, real life, Warcraft community, whatever, but you can clean up your own home. Make these places, these Discords, these guilds, these raid teams, these communities, these Twitch chats, a place you want to live in. So with that, we're going to close out our stream. Thank you, Kib.
Also, Sparty,
yes.
Before I get publicly executed, Warrior Discord is fun, just ban Darilor. Warrior Discord did nothing wrong.
I'm sure. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Thank you, Kib and Gray, for being such gracious guests. Much appreciated. I know we had a third guest, Macro, we were hoping to get on as well for a nice long discussion. And it's been a great long podcast. Thank you, Midgettes, for helping facilitate having these guys on here. I'm sure we'll have more questions afterwards. How can people reach you? I mean, yes, you guys are the mods of those various Discords, but your Twitter handles, how can people get a hold of you should they have more questions or things they want to pick at?
People can just reach me on the easiest probably Discord, but on Twitter it's _KIB0, and I stream sometimes, but you can find all that stuff on Twitter as well. So just one link.
Fantastic. And Gray?
Same as Kib. You can find me on Discord, which is easiest way, and on Twitter you can search for Gray_Hound, and it's gonna show up. I think my Twitter tag is bit_hound, because I'm not cool enough to be a boss. But
perfect.
Outside of that, that's the two easiest ways of contacting me.
Fantastic, and I'm sure a number of people will, as they do have more questions for you guys. And I know we're going to have some, off the record discussions as well as, as going forward. But thank you guys so much. With that, we're going to wind down our show. For those of you that, are following us, if you have questions, suggestions, ideas, we want to see some other people on the show. We've reached out to some, some pretty big important people out there to getting them on here. But email us at bestinslotpodcast@gmail.com, or tweet us at Sparty Smallwood or at Midgettes. We're always here. Thank you, Midgettes, again for everything that you've done so far. And with that, sorry, go ahead, Midgettes.
I was just going to tell the guys, thanks a lot for coming. I think it was a great discussion.
Yep, thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And with that, have a good night, be excellent to each other, and as always, live your life heroically.